Hey guys, it's Pete from Leisure Time here. We're looking at another hot tub. This particular one is a bullfrog. So if you're looking at a bullfrog, then you have the model number and the serial number, two places. Just like most hot tubs, there's a small tag on the kick plate down below that you can see it, but once you open up the panel, you have a larger one on here. And they said that the hot tub's just not heating up. It's been maintaining about 70 to 73 degrees. I believe pretty much all of the bullfrogs nowadays are running gecko packs. That's the brand that makes their control pack. We're going to take a look here. And I'm going to tell you why it's important to have both a multimeter tool. It's going to be this thing right here to measure voltage and other things. And then why it's also important to have some sort of an amp draw meter. This is an amp clamp. So I'm going to set it to voltage, and then automatically it goes to DC. So I want to switch it to AC voltage, because pretty much everything in a hot tub is AC volt. DC volt is stuff like your car that you'd want to test, anything 12 volts. If you're testing anything 110, 220, that's all AC volts. And I'm just going to put my leads right onto the leads for the heating element. You have the heating element coming up here, going on the circuit board. Put one lead there, one lead there. And I'm getting 243 volts, which is exactly how much the heating element needs to run. You can run off of 110 for smaller heating elements. You just don't get as much heat out of them. So now I'm going to take my amp clamp. I'm going to set it up, and you can have different settings to wherever the decimal lands. I'm going to set it back here so that I have testing the, this is a 200 amp test. I'm just going to clamp it onto the wire for the heating element, and I am not getting anything. It's not drawing any amps, but I know that it should be calling for heat right now, and it's getting voltage to the heating element, but it's not drawing any amps, which tells me the heating element is bad. On these particular gecko packs, it's a lot more difficult to change out just the heating element, and so they pretty much come as an assembly, because all of the sensors are right there on the manifold. So you have like a high limit, and this is like a flow sensor in there. It's just easiest to replace the whole heater tube assembly. So the first step is going to be to shut off the power. We're going to get the tub drained out, and then we're going to pull some of these clamps off of here to pull the heating element. Release that, put the new one in, and these are just simple screws that unbolt, and the sensors plug right into the circuit board. Just unplug it, plug it in. Okay, so I got the tub empty, and now what we're going to do is split the unions here on the heater. Now there's this small plastic bracket that was underneath here that kind of had the heater on, and I had to remove the two bonding wires down there on the grounding lug there in order to get that thing out of the way. So I've removed those, and that plastic bracket has come off. And now we can release both these. Once we got those off. Okay, next thing we can do is just simply unplug these two sensors from the circuit board. Those shouldn't be too confusing because they only plug in one spot. You do kind of have to pay attention to how the plug is oriented on the circuit board, because you have to plug those back in the same way again. Unscrew our power legs. Make sure you don't lose those little screws. Got the power, and then the ground. Remove the entire heater assembly and replace it with the new one. Keep an eye on those O-rings, don't lose those. When you're screwing those unions back on, and I think I say this every time in my videos, just be really careful not to cross thread those on. They should go on really easy, and if they're not going on easy, then it's probably cross-threaded. And you know, unscrew them and start over and try to line them up just right, because you mess those up and you're in a world of hurt. Okay, once I got those hand tightened, go ahead and tighten them down with my wrench. Okay, those are nice and tight. Now we can plug our sensors back in. So many wires in there, you gotta get real close to make sure you're lining up. You don't bend the little prongs that are coming out on the plug on the receiver end of the circuit board. Make sure those are all lined up properly. Okay, we're gonna hook up our ground and our 2 power wires. Ground was on top. I'm gonna go from top and work my way down. Now with these lead wires, it doesn't matter which one goes into which terminal because they're both getting the same amount of power. So whichever way the wires fit, that's convenient for running them back in. Now to put these grounding lugs, the ground bond wires back on, I did make myself a little access hole, because otherwise it's darn near impossible to get access to these. Alright, so now that everything's hooked back up again, we can start putting water in it, fill it up, and we'll test it once it's full. Okay, so we got the tub filled back up again. We're going to turn the power back on, and we're going to check the heating element and confirm that it's heating like it should. Alright, so tub's back on. We're going to give it a minute to do its startup sequence. What it needs to do is run water through the heating element for a few minutes to test the water temperature and to see if it needs to heat. And obviously we got cold water in there, so it needs to heat. I'm also going to purge the pumps here. Sometimes it takes a minute for the pump to purge. Might have to turn it on and off a couple times. Another thing you can do, if it doesn't want to purge right away, I'm just going to crack the union loose over here. Hear all the air hissing out of there until we got some water dripping in, and then tighten it back up again. Now we're going to run that pump. And you can kind of hear that water. There we go. Got some good flow there. So we'll just give that a minute to see what it does. Once it pops up with a temperature on the display, then it should be calling for heat, and then we'll test the heating element to confirm it. Okay, so we have a temperature popped up here, 47 degrees. And so it should be calling for heat now. I put my amp clamp on the heater. We got 23 amps calling, so that means it's working, and that's what we want to see. So everything should be good here. I'm just going to run through everything, make sure it's working properly. High speed on both pumps. Heater still on and running, so we're good to go. I think our water level is just about to the point where I want to pull the hose out from siphoning, so we're good to go. Thanks for watching. That's how you replace a heating element on a Gecko control pack. And Gecko is being used in more and more spas nowadays. Doesn't matter what brand the hot tub is, the Gecko control pack still pretty much works the same way. And if you have any questions, let us know.